you all and welcome to the annual general meeting of Mid Wales Housing Association. There's a couple of announcements I'm going to make. We're apparently live on the internet this evening, and also there'll be a feedback on our Facebook if you want to see it. Can I also ask those people who've got mobile phones, including myself, whatever it is, if you can switch it off, please, so that there's no interference. Thank you. Right, the first item on the agenda are apologies for absence.
Diolch. Derbynwyd ymddiheuriadau gan y cyfandeiliad dilynol o Gymdeithas Tai Canol Cymru. Apologies have been received from the following shareholders of Mid Wales Housing Association: Mr. Peter Swanson, Mr. Ray Dowling, Ms. Liz Jenkins, Mrs. Linda Pepper, Miss Carol Spadona, Mr. Roger Long, and Mr. Mark Rees. Derbynwyd hefyd 42 ymddiheuriad arall gan denantiaid a chynrychiolwyr sefydliadau eraill, a gofnodir yng nghofnodion y cyfarfod. In addition, a further 42 apologies have been received from tenants and representatives of other organisations, which will be recorded within the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you, Janet. We'll now go to item 2, with the minutes of the annual general meeting held on the 1st of August 2014. I'll go through them first for accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and page 6. Everybody happy? Can I have a pause in a second for that? Nick and Reg, thank you. And before I proceed to the next item on the agenda, it's just caught my eye that in the list of clients present at the last AGM was Mrs. Christine Fields of Welsh School, who's sadly no longer with us. So I'm sure you'd like to join in me in sending her family and the families of any of our tenants who are no longer with us our condolences for their sad loss. Right, now then, item 3 is the address by Julie Nicholas of the Chartered Institute of Housing Cymru. Unfortunately, Helen North is unable to join us today, and we're very grateful for her colleague Julie Nicholas has agreed to address us this afternoon. Julie joined the Chartered Institute of Housing Cymru in July 2012 as a Policy and Public Affairs Manager, and also has responsibility for membership, communications, learning and development. She recently launched the Welsh Housing Review 2015, Chartered Institute of Housing Cymru's flagship annual policy publication, and this is Julie's 4th edition as editor. Housing in Wales is currently facing an incredibly important time as the government here implements its first ever Housing Act and faces its own election next year, alongside other potential changes in the housing market in Wales which are coming along the horizon. So I know you were very interested in hearing what Julie has to say, so the floor is yours. I've lost where you can stand there.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I've just come from the Welsh Parents Conference in Llandudno, actually, so it's all worked out perfectly. I've been asked to talk today. Sorry, do I have Oh, well, thank you. I've been asked to talk today to give you a policy update, not just about what's happening in Wales, but also what's happening in England, which obviously people are very interested in. Because of the recent announcements after the 2015 May election, general election. Thank you. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about the big picture, the economic and political context, talk about what's happening in England, updates on emerging housing and welfare policies, then talk a bit about housing in Wales and what's happening at CIH and how we're responding and how we're supporting our membership. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit, because I thought I had the opportunity to do so, to talk to you about the Homes for Wales campaign that CIH are running with Community Housing Cymru ahead of the Welsh election, that we want as many people as possible to get involved in, to raise housing up the political agenda ahead of the Assembly elections next May. So I think it's fair to say that 2015 brought an unexpected general election result for most of us. The only person I know who got it right is our policy director in Coventry, but other than that, I think it was a bit of a shock for everyone. We have a new Conservative majority government, and that government is energised and confident, with a strong belief in its mandate. However, it has a small majority of 12, so we think that this will probably increase the haste of its legislative programme. We also see the growth in power of smaller parties in Westminster, and a dominant SNP representing Scotland, although UKIP did not make the anticipated gains that were expected. In terms of our economic performance at the moment then, the UK economy has technically recovered. That means 7 quarters of continued growth. Productivity, however, continues to be a challenge for us, and this is relevant for housing because government productivity plans set out measures such as reform of planning and transport and infrastructure investment that will drive the delivery of more housing. So whilst Westminster Government's perception is that the housing sector can be more productive than it should be, that's going to be driving the policy forward. Clearly, you can see that some regions are seeing more growth than others, so although it's a recovery, it's an unequal recovery. And London and the South East are doing very well. Together, they're accounting for 38% of the gross value added, which is a measure of productivity and economic performance. That's more than the Midlands and the North of England combined at 33%. And in London, the GVA per head of population is 72% above the UK average. That's a huge differential. Future government spending. Westminster austerity policy continues. We definitely know that. However, the budget 2015 showed an increase on government spending, actually, which was in contradiction to what we anticipated from the autumn statement back last year in autumn 2014. Whilst public spending as a proportion of GDP continues to shrink, the autumn spending plan is likely to continue this trend, so we're going to see continued decrease in government public spending. Heading over to Wales then, we can see that Wales is disproportionately affected by austerity policy. In the first chart, you can see that in blue, Wales has higher numbers claiming housing benefit at 74%, and you can see higher numbers affected by bedroom tax or fair bedroom subsidy, depending on what you prefer to call it, at 20%. And that's in comparison to both England and Scotland, we are disproportionately affected. In the second chart, which looks at bedroom tax from May 2015 for a snapshot, you can see how it's impacting across the country. It's affecting the whole nation. If you relate it back to populations, nobody really is doing particularly well. It's affecting all RSLs and all local government. So we've also, on top of that, got a higher number of public sector workers in Wales. So where we're seeing cuts to public services and job losses, it's also disproportionately affecting us. And we have higher numbers claiming social security benefits. And all of this as well, we're facing the public service change agenda. So huge challenges there. What this means is that priorities for housing organisations and landlords remain to help residents and tenants prepare for and mitigate against welfare reform, to work with statutory services in partnership as they transform and reorganise, and to support the workforce to rise to the challenge of delivering increasingly diverse services to increasing number of people. I'm not a welfare reform expert, that's Sam's job in our Coventry office, but I can talk you through a bit more about what we do know coming out of the recent Queen's speech. We know that continuation of social security cuts through welfare reform and work bill will happen, and CIH has raised its significant concerns about a number of aspects of this bill, including changes to housing benefit for those under 21 years of age, possibly under 25 years of age, the lowering of the benefit cap, a 4-year freeze on working age benefits from 2016-17, and reduced income thresholds for universal credit and tax credits. Additional things that are happening in England, because housing policy has devolved to Wales, welfare reform policy is not. So what the UK government says is happening in welfare reform will happen to us, but what they're saying in England about housing will only apply to England. So, housing policy in England will continue to focus on supporting home ownership. That's a big focus on right to buy, help to buy and starter home for delivery of more starter homes. For social housing, the English Housing Bill, which we're expecting in October, will extend the right to buy to 1.3 million housing association tenants, with councils selling their most valuable vacant properties to pay for replacements. There's also a proposed 1% annual rent reduction for social housing for the next 4 years. NatFed, I think, have done some calculations around that, and what that means is that there will be an average 12% reduction by 2020, going into 2021. And that basically turns on its head the 10-year rent settlement that they agreed just last year, and that registered social landlords have based their business plans on. And I think it's fair to say that it wasn't anticipated by the English housing sector. Out of all the recent announcements, this is potentially the biggest threat to housing providers' viability. The NHS has forecast that the cumulative loss to the sector's total rent revenue is around 3.8 billion over the 4 years, whilst the Local Government Association in England has estimated a cumulative loss of 2.6 billion from local authority housing business plans. So the Office of Budget Responsibility has estimated this measure will result in approximately 14,000 fewer social homes being built, while the NHS estimate is 27,000 fewer homes. And of course, there will be a consequential impact on non-core housing organisational activities, the extra stuff that the staff do feel coming to. It will also bring reforms to speed up and simplify the planning system. So that's all due out shortly, as well as possible plans to introduce a pay-to-stay policy. So I don't know if people have heard about that, but basically that means if you are earning a certain amount of money, your rent will be increased accordingly. In London, if you earn more than £40,000, outside of London, if you earn more than £30,000, so that raises both affordability and administrational issues for our sister organisations in England. And as well, there is talk about plans to end the right to lifetime tenancy for those living in social housing. So this is England 2015. These are literally from the last couple of months. This is the headlines, this is the narrative that they're facing. An increasing spotlight on social housing with a developing media and political narrative that's not exactly conducive to fostering positive relations. Okay, Welsh Assembly elections 2016 then. It's likely that Welsh Government will see an increase in the number of political party representatives. It's anticipated that UKIP could take up to 7 seats in the Senate next year. This is the latest UK elect forecast for the election, which predicts Labour to fall 3 seats short of a majority, principally due to significant gains by the UKIP. Having said that, we all know polls can be wrong, and they were in May. So, Wales has many housing challenges, as we all know. The population and the economy has been hit hard since the 2008 downturn. Wales is older, poorer and less economically active than the rest of the country, with a higher share of public sector workers and social security reliant. This means a disproportionate impact, which I've just talked about. The political commitment to housing in Wales, however, has been impressive in this, the fourth National Assembly term for Wales. We have continued capital grants at 58%. We have new finance programmes, suggesting the beginning of a new narrative for housing. Housing is critical national infrastructure, and that is the line that CIH is going to be pushing ahead of the elections. Now, housing is economically critical. It should be viewed as national infrastructure. We've also seen continued protection of the supporting people budget despite recent cuts. If you look across the board at what's happened with housing-related support services, we have been pushing very much against what's happened there. We also see progressive policy decisions to grow and strengthen the supply of homes across tenure within a one housing system approach. The Welsh Government and the housing sector. CIH thinks the Welsh Government understands the added value of housing investment, and the relationship with the sector is clearly positive, especially when comparing with what's happening in England right now. Welsh housing is led on many aspects of maximising the impact of housing investment on public investment through pioneering procurement policies. So an example of that, you'd expect me to say this, is CIH Cymru's I2I project and its Can Do toolkit, which has brought huge community benefits to local populations in Wales. However, We must make sure that the case for affordable housing and investment in affordable homes is made, and we must make that regularly, and we must make that case well. The recent IWA report on economic strategy for Wales cites increased housing investment as a priority example of approaches to narrow the wealth gap between Wales and the UK. It cites an investment of 500 million over and above existing Welsh Government programmes could enable an additional 10,000 affordable homes to be built, and in the process support about 5,000 full-time jobs. The priority remains to increase the stock, upgrade the stock and protect the stock. Investment in existing social housing continues through the delivery of WHQS, the Welsh Housing Quality Standard, the target date for which has been extended to 2020. As at the 31st of March 2014, 67% of social housing dwellings were compliant with WHQS, an increase of 7% on 2013. The recent Welsh White Paper proposes changes to current legislation to reduce the maximum right to buy discount available to £6,000, and secondly proposing developing new legislation in the next programme after the election to end right to buy and right to acquire in Wales, which obviously is a complete opposite policy direction to what's happening in England. And if you want a really good example to see the difference now between England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland, have a look at right to buy policies. They're completely different in every country. It makes a really good example of the impact of devolution on housing policy. So, what is CIH doing? We continue to take evidence-based response positions to new policies and legislation. Most recently, our UK Government Spending Review submission highlighted the impact on people and organisations that we calculate will result from rent cuts in England and proposed changes to welfare reform across Great Britain. We continue to inform and represent our membership. We launched the CIH Academy today. We take our charter responsibility seriously to work for the art and science of the housing community. We're a people organisation and our strength is in our membership. In Wales, we continue a close relationship with government, our members and partners. We work closely with our board and the growing number of CIH Common Champions that we have. If you're interested in joining CIH, come see us. We have a dynamic learning and events office to support the profession, including our new pilot to our pioneering Frontline Futures programme, following on from our landmark research last year, the role of functions of 21st century housing officer. We hope to continue as a trusted broker across the housing industry in Wales, and CIH continues to coordinate a cross-party housing group, which is an important part of the Assembly business. We launched our Agenda for Change last week, and these are our asks of the next Welsh Government from the housing community. We worked with a number of members on designing it and trying to get it right, trying to get consensus to agree what our priorities were. I know a number of people in this room took part in the response that we requested. And these are the 5 themes that we're going with. And underneath each theme there are 3 asks of the Welsh Government, which I'm not going to tell you because you don't want me reading the list of 15 things to you. But I'll just give you the heading. Housing is infrastructure. This is our big push. Housing is national investment. We need to increase supply. Housing and its relationship with tackling poverty cannot be underestimated. Housing as prevention. We've got a huge prevention agenda going on in Wales, and housing is critical to that. And working together. Massive success in partnerships in Wales. Wales is really taking collaboration, co-production seriously and working. We're seeing great things happen. We believe that housing has a role to play in both the prevention and the economic agendas, but we need a sophisticated narrative to explain this. Housing prevents homelessness, that's obvious. That's the obvious one, it goes without saying almost. Homelessness is the most direct manifestation of a failure of the housing system and a failure to deliver on a population's housing needs with terrible implications for the people who experience it. Housing prevents poor health, it promotes good mental and physical well-being, and it reduces the burden on acute services. Some really interesting research by Carmarthenshire Council published a couple of years ago showing evidence for this. Housing prevents economic decline, it houses workers, it provides employment and training, and it boosts national productivity. And I think it's really important to put that in context of these huge infrastructure projects that are going to be happening. You've got Energy Island up in Ynys Môn, you've got the Swansea Reef, you've got the Cardiff City Metro region. You know, the people, the jobs, that this is going to attract the people in the communities that these people are going to need homes and they're going to need to supply them part of that infrastructure project. Housing prevents fragmentation and exclusion. It builds resilient communities and encourages inclusive activity. Quick plug for Homes for Wales. These are the partners that are involved, and Community Housing Cymru and CIH are leading on this project ahead of Welsh Government elections in May next year. Please keep an eye out and follow it on Twitter and social media and get involved in the options that are going to be available. In the bottom right hand corner there you'll see Housing Camp Cymru, which is brand new. And basically this is a group of housing activists who have come together to set up a housing camp for first in Wales. It's been going in England for a few years now. We've gone through the whole high thing. Which there's someone in the group who didn't get this reference at all, too young. The idea is that you come with your idea or your problem or your collaboration, you pitch it, and if enough people want to get involved, you then run a session. It's a total unconference. The first hour is planned, after that it's a free for all. It's on Saturday the 14th of November at the Newbridge Memo in Gwent. Free tickets will be available soon via the CIH website, so please follow us on Twitter and get involved on Facebook. And if you are a housing activist, a tenant, or a professional, or you just care about housing, please come along and get involved. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I haven't asked you, are you happy to take some questions?
Yeah,
any questions? Any questions on the floor at all? Any question if you want to go in? All right.
Hi Julie, I actually work in England, so all too well familiar with what's going on. And I was also involved in the Homes to Britain campaign, which was the one in England, from the government. I went to the event in London where all the politicians stood in front of thousands of people and said all the right things. And then we got the announcement after the election, which was completely different to everything they said in there. And the question is, one of the downsides for it, we were raising some of the issues that then the government are now hitting housing associations with, as in, yes, and it's your fault. What's the risk of that happening the same in the Welsh election?
Yeah. I think the relationship between the housing community in Wales and our government is very different to the relationships we have with the community in England. I think we work much more closely together. We are likely to be seeing some sort of a coalition government, but for example, I was at an event last week and all four organisations, all four political party representatives stated that they would not be seeking to extend right to buy in Wales. So a lot of what was announced in England was actually in the manifestos. It was in there. We're probably not be seeing that in Wales. I understand the reluctance, but I still think that in Wales we've got a positive relationship with government. We talk to government, they're interested in what we say and in what we do and what housing can do for Wales. They're very serious about taking that system stewardship approach. I do think it's very different. And I have heard a number of people say, thank goodness they're working.
Any more questions? Any question on that? There we are. Many thanks very much for your presentation. Thank you very much. Right, we move on now then to item 4 on the agenda, which is the accounts for the year ending 31st of March 2015, and Mr. Charles Brotherton will take the floor. Thank you.
Noswaith o'r pawb, croeso cyflwyniad ariannol. Good evening all, welcome to financial presentation. You've all had on your table, or a chair, perhaps, a set of accounts. This is where I get really excited.
I don't.
Particularly the board members amongst you. 62 pages packed with fascinating facts and numbers. So I'm going to put that to one side then. You'll be pleased to know I've put a little presentation together which hopefully will be slightly more interesting, but we'll see. The highlights from our accounts, the first one being generating surpluses, and I think this is one of the areas where we may have lost the argument in England. We absolutely need to generate surpluses because it's that surplus that repays the loan. We've borrowed £40 million. In the next 25 years, we need to repay £40 million. So we need to generate surpluses in the future of over £1 million a year to ensure we can get to that situation. 383 is a little less than we need in the future. Reserves have increased to 6 million. The key thing about that homelessness, £5 million on providing new homes. A huge achievement and great. And those properties on the balance sheet worth £38 million. This year is the 40th anniversary of the association, and next month I will have been with the association 5 years, and I thought, wouldn't it be useful to show a picture over some time, this is just actually over 11 years, of how the income and the expenditure was moved for the association. The blue line at the bottom, or the blue pack at the bottom, that is our overall operating costs, the maintenance and the management costs for the association. So that's increased from around 3 million to around 4.25 million. So in terms of that spending on the properties, that's not a significant increase. The next big area is the green, and that's our interest payments on the loans. So it's effectively £1 million back in 2004 and is now approaching £2 million. So that's doubled. Our loans have also doubled over that period of time, so it's not surprising the interest payments have also doubled. And then you've got between 2005 up to 2011, the blue line on top, which is actually the association ran deficits, deliberately ran deficits to do works on repairs to meet WHQS. It deliberately spent the money that it built up in previous years. From 2011 onwards, we've got a purple area, which are the surpluses, and those surpluses are currently growing. So I just thought that was an interesting picture. So back in 2004, just over £4 million worth of income to the association. Now in 2015, going on to 2016, approaching £7 million. Over that 10-year, 11-year period, the association is almost double in size, double the debt, double the interest payments, but double the income. Same sort of trend over the balance sheet, but I wasn't going to concentrate on that at all, but that's just showing again, back in 2004, we worked with this association, but the total cost was around £50 million, and now it's approaching 100 million. So in that period of time, doubled size. Moving on to the hard-earned pound that our tenants pay in their rent, so I'll just show pictorially how that is spent. And actually it's very similar to what I showed last year and the year before. And the way to look at it is in three parts. Very broadly, a third of the money is spent on maintenance. So the top right-hand corner, the maintenance, 25%, and then the depreciation. The depreciation is to represent the replacement of those components in the homes, the kitchens, the bathrooms, the boiler systems. So that's a third spent on maintaining the properties. Then in terms of service charges, maintenance costs, bad debts, the element at the bottom there is effectively a third from managing the organisation. And then interest payments and the surplus is all about the interest on the loans and then that surplus for repaying the loans. So effectively, a third of that money is going on maintaining the properties, a third on managing, and a third on the payment of the debt and the interest payments on that debt of providing the home. And in terms of the £5 million or more that we spend on investing in the properties, the vast majority, as we can see, it's £5 million, just over £5 million on providing the new homes, £459,000 on replacing kitchen, bathroom, boiler systems. We have to provide plans, long-term financial plans to both the funders, various banks, Barclays, Nationwide, and whatever, and the Welsh Government, so they can be satisfied we can repay the loans. So to provide a long-term plan, and that's that payment of the loan shown graphically. And you'll see 2039, there's a crossing of the graph, and that's saying in 2039, that's only 26 years' time, we would be in a position of repaying the loans. So that's excellent news. In fact, we've got some blue shading above, is to say some of our loans are actually extending beyond 25 years. Some of the loans we've taken out in the past were for 30 years, 35 years, 40 years. So actually in 2039, some of the loans aren't actually due to be repaid, but we'd actually have enough cash to do so. One of the things, particularly our board members are aware of, is the thing that constrains our ability to grow is the amount of money that we can borrow. And the banks set what we call a gearing covenant that says we can only borrow a certain proportion of what the association is worth. They don't want us to become over-indebted, over-geared. And what this is showing is for the next 2 years, we plan to develop as many properties as we can within that gearing limit that's set by the funders. Clearly, providing new homes is the greatest life-changing event you can give to somebody who's homeless. So putting the money into that. But if you stop developing, then that gearing falls away, the capacity to borrow more money opens up, but we borrow to invest in new homes. So in terms of some of those highlights of our loans, we've got £40 million facility that's available. We need to borrow more money to carry on providing the extra homes that are in our business plans. We've just arranged a new loan with Barclays Bank to get signed or completed this Friday. We need to arrange some further long-term funding to make sure that everything is there for the next 5 years. I'm also talking with the funders about trying to increase that gearing level to give us capacity to borrow a little bit more money, so it gives us greater flexibility in our financial plans for the future. Put aside on challenges. Clearly, we've heard a lot about the challenges, but what I want to do is just concentrate on the 3 bullet points I put at the bottom. Because it's not all necessarily gloom and doom. From a Mid-Wales housing perspective, we've actually got some very low-cost loans. We've actually entered into some fixed rate arrangements that give us huge certainty over interest costs in the future. We've had favourable conversations with all the funders about giving us that extra financial capacity, and that will happen this year. So that's positive for us. And over the last 5 years, we have demonstrated we can generate the surpluses that we need. And I think we can continue to do that. So there's some very positive things. Yes, there's some challenges. I think we've got some groundwork that's there that's really supportive. So that's the whistle-stop tour through the finances, and not the 63 pages in the accounts. But are there any questions?
Os gwneud y Gymraeg neu'r Saesneg, with English or Welsh as you feel happier.
How much are we likely to see the hearing be raised to where we are at the moment?
The proposal is to raise it from the current 65% to 75%.
And that gives us sufficient for our future, yes?
That should give us sufficient flexibility that if things go adversely generally, we won't have a problem.
Okay, okay. Any other questions? Any question on that?
Clearly, afterwards, in the privacy of being in the kitchen, if you want to ask me some questions, then feel free to do so.
Okay. Right, are we on to agenda item 5, appointment of the auditors for 2015-2016. I think that's you again, Charles, is it?
It is indeed. Whittingham Riddell undertook the audit. They gave a clean bill of health in that audit. They were appointed following a tender exercise, and I would recommend to the shareholders that we reappoint Whittingham Riddell for a further 12 months.
You take a vote for that, or
Yes, please.
will all the shareholders who are holding these cards be shown their approval for that, please? Those against? Unanimously carried that. Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair. Yes, we need to approve the accounts.
Yes.
Guided by
Indeed we do. Thank you very much indeed, Dick. If I could also have a proposer and seconder for accepting the accounts.
Dick and Wynne, thank you. Sorry, say that again, sorry.
Need a show of hands from the shareholders. That's just a proposal.
Sorry, apparently I need a show of hands from the shareholders. I'm sorry about this, is all new to me. Can we all show our shareholders approval to it? Thank you. Those against it? Unanimously carried. Thank you. Then again, Charles, it's you again on agenda item 6, the rule change.
Thank you very much. All shareholders, as part of the notice of the meeting, will have been given notice of a proposed rule change, and the changes in relation to the appointment of tenant board members. And if I read out the paragraph that we wish the rule to state, and then I'll just explain. We wish the rule D13.2 that deals with the appointment of tenant board members to read as follows. Save for the first tenant board member, who will be appointed by the board, the tenant board members shall be elected at the annual general meeting by the shareholders of the association. The method of obtaining a nomination and election shall be decided by the board from time to time. The board shall publish in each annual report the method which will apply to the election of tenant board members. Just wait for the train to go. Clearly we're moving into a more uncertain world, and the board needs to be assured that the board members have the appropriate skills and requirements to undertake their duties. And it's important that we have places on the board for tenant board members, but we wish to make sure that they have the right skills and abilities. So the rule change here is to ensure that the board can determine what those skills and requirements are, and for there to be a nomination and a selection process first, before those tenant candidates are put forward for election to the board. That's the purpose of the change. So are there any questions to the proposal?
In question, any questions? If not, can I have a proposal and seconder for that item? Morag and Dick, thank you. And I believe I must also ask for a vote of the shareholders on that proposal. So can all those in favour please show with the cards? Thank you. All those against? It's unanimously carried. Thank you very much. Is that it, Charles?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Chair.
Right. So we're now on to item 7, which is my address. I shall keep it as brief as possible, but I'm going to kick off in Welsh. Hon oedd y flwyddyn gyntaf fel cadeirydd. A hoffem ddiolch i'n cyn-flaenydd Nick Hoskins am ei stiwadiaeth flaengar o'r gymdeithas hon yn y 4 blynedd diwethaf. Nick is here somewhere, where are you? Many thanks, Nick. Thank you very much for all you've done. O dan ei gadernyddiaeth, mae'r gymdeithas wedi cael ei drawsnewid yn sylweddol, ac mae'r aelodau newydd o staff sydd wedi cael eu penodi wedi dod â syniadau byrbwyll a ffres y sefydliad. Yn anffodus, rydym wedi ffarwelio a rhai o'n cydweithwyr ffyddlon sydd wedi gweithio'n galed ar gyfer y gymdeithas dros y blynyddoedd. Ond erbyn hyn wedi symud ymlaen i feysydd eraill. Roedd hyn yn cynnwys staff a aelodau o'r bwrdd. Mae y cyn-gadeirydd Jim Lloyd wedi ein gadael ar ôl mwy nag 11 mlynedd o wasanaeth ffyddlon ac mae'n gywir i ddweud ei fod wedi gosod y sylfaeni yn edrych Nick ei weithio dros y blynyddoedd. Rydym i gyd yn diolch i Jim am ei gyfraniad a dymunwn yn dda iddo ar gyfer y dyfodol. Now, since this is working and the translation facilities are not going down the line, for those people on the internet, what I've just said basically is I thank my predecessors for their hard work for the association. Good governance remained a high priority for the association. And whilst we said goodbye to Jim and another colleague, Carolyn Spaderna, who left us to pursue a project in America, and apparently she now works in Chicago, we've been joined by new members, Peter Bayliss and Liz Jenkins. I think Peter's here somewhere tonight in the corner over there. And they come with skills to strengthen our governance still further. Both come with impressive CVs, and I look forward to them making a positive contribution to the running of the association in the time ahead. And I'm pleased to say that that's already occurring. Thank you. I was also pleased to welcome Councillor Francesca Jump as an observer on behalf of Powys County Council. An open invitation is made to both councils, Ceredigion and Powys, to attend and understand how the association works. It has always been possible for representatives to find time in their busy schedules to be present. The last year, therefore, has been, to some extent, a period of consolidation, but we have not forgotten the key purpose of the restructure, which was to improve services. So fresh ideas have been adopted. For instance, the proposed trial of a scheme to improve the void standards of the association, and we expect this to be implemented in 2015 and should improve the reletting standard of our properties for our new tenants. During the year, our new housing development at Red Bank in Welshpool was completed, providing a total of additional 37 new properties, and the design has been lauded by many who have visited it, including the then Welsh Government Minister for Housing, Carl Sargent. About a year ago, he visited the estate. This development is a mixture of dwellings to rent and some for sale on the open market. I was pleased to note that all these properties were either sold or let during the year, providing a mixture of tenures. In addition, development work was also commenced on the old Tabernacle Chapel site in Aberystwyth for 22 flats, and at Dolhaven in Llanidloes for 25 units. Now, last night I was looking at this, what I've just said, and what I've just said is correct, but is it accurate? Okay, we've built 37, 22, 25, was that just over 80? Well, actually we have built 80 new homes. And hopefully we create communities for people to live in those homes and enjoy themselves. Now then, Care Repair in Powys is a subsidiary company of Mid Wales Housing. The last year has been a busy one for Care Repair in Powys. Despite reductions in funding and staffing during 2014 to 15, the agency provided help, advice and practical assistance to 2,087 people with disabilities or of an older nature in Powys. Caseworkers assisted older people in the county to increase their incomes by approaching 165,000 through obtaining additional benefits, etc. This, along with the agency using local contractors wherever possible, resulted in a significant amount of additional cash either going into the local economy or remaining in that local economy. A few weeks ago, I attended the AGM of Care Repair in Powys, and on the room there was a notice board. And adorned on the notice board were letters and cards from grateful clients. Two of them caught my eye, and I'd like to share with you what it said on those cards. One said, "A simple handrail has totally changed my life. My angina and Parkinson's meant I was unable to get out at all. I was confined in the house. But now I can enjoy sitting in my garden, which I do every day." And the other one said, "Life is easier for me now. The services provided have considerably assisted my day-to-day routine." I think those two comments speak volumes for the work that Care Repair do to keep people in their own homes and not in hospitals or care homes, etc. So can I thank Karen and her team, and Karen is here somewhere, I can't find her, in the back there, for everything that you've done. Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Now then, upon reflection, I think I should have started with what I'm about to say, namely that this year we celebrate the 40th birthday of Mid Wales Housing Association, which, mindful of the economic, political climate of the last 40 years, is no mean feat. Also, during this lengthy period, the association has only had two chief executives, namely Rosemary Salter and the current occupier, Mr. Shane Perkins. Now, when I mentioned this to Shane a while back, he added the proviso to date. So I assume he meant it in jest. But seriously, can I thank not only the two people that I've just mentioned, but also all of the staff and board members, present and past, that have contributed to the success of the association over the years. Lastly, and by no means least, on a personal note, I must thank my colleagues for granting me the honour of being chair of this association, and for the support I received from Wyn Davis. Wyn is here somewhere, in the back there, hiding behind Trevor, and also Shane Perkins, the Chief Executive, Directors, Staff and Clients. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the launch of the annual report by the Chief Executive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. When I took over as Chief Executive, the first annual report, I stood up here, presented a nice, flashy, glossy magazine, gave it out to everybody, and then talked for a long period of time. Over the years, quite rapidly, I realised that I'd much prefer to avoid doing that. So we don't provide a glossy magazine anymore to tenants or to stakeholders. We've adopted new technologies in the way that we present the report. You'll also noted that most of the business has been conducted by my Deputy and Director of Finance, Charles, here. So I only get to say a few words here. A couple of things I want to reflect on. That I was listening to the presentation earlier on and some of the notes that David's just said. And I'm mindful that we've got three small children in the audience today. It's really the work that we're doing today is to look towards the future, their futures. They may or may not be able to provide accommodation for themselves, but certainly there's a large proportion of the communities of Wales who won't be able to provide housing for themselves without some degree of assistance. We heard earlier that Wales is more dependent upon benefits than the rest of the UK. And the research we've done amongst our tenants is, by and large, that's in-work benefits, reflecting the fact that the local economy, both in Powys and Ceredigion, sadly is paying very low wages. So those hard-working tenants are having to rely to some extent on those benefits. So they're the ones that really we're trying to assist. But here we have our annual report. Last year we developed what we called a microsite, which is designed to tell the story of the association. It allows people to go to the site and look for information that they might be interested in. So if you're interested in our new developments, you can have a look at what we're doing in development. If you're interested in the finances, you can read the full financial accounts. But the bottom line is, it also tells the story of why we exist. And so we have a small film clip, which if I click on it quickly enough, you'll be able to see. And I think this really captures what the association is trying to do. It tells our story. You'll see in a minute. Why it's very...
I'm frequently humbled by the extraordinary work that my colleagues achieve here at Mid Wales Housing Association. We're always trying to think of ways to improve our tenants' lives. And to do that, we have four main values. They are equality. We believe in equal access for local people to affordable homes of quality. Excellence. We believe in positively changing people's attitudes towards the value of affordable housing. Community. We believe in a local approach to community housing. And caring. We believe in putting the welfare of our tenants before profit. And when we put these into practice, we get to hear inspirational stories from tenants about how we've improved their lives, and that is what really matters.
It's been a marvellous experience for me. It's been it's enhanced my life. The house I'm in is a beautiful house, and I'm really settled. Everybody is so nice. And when I go on a Thursday to the day centre, sometimes I have to sing song on the bus and things like that. It's so natural. The girls' housing is the best thing that has happened to me. The way they reacted to my requests, the way they helped me. The girls' housing, they're not just a firm. They really do help me.
To start with, he was a little bit nervous about moving to a new area, but I think having met lots of people in the day centre and people on the estate, he's overcome that quite quickly. George has become more confident, he's made more friends. Me and George have got a great relationship. We did the viewing to start with, we did your handover, we did your housing benefit, we got all that straight, didn't we? Just gave you some information as well about local amenities and things, because you were a bit concerned before you moved in, so I did you a little pack, didn't I? But it's just making sure that you're all right and that your tenancy's going okay and that you know where we are if you need us, isn't it, as well?
I'm as happy now as what I was when I first got married.
When we look back at the association's activities, I'm pleased to see just how much we've achieved. We have introduced our welfare benefits service, and we were able to secure more than £200,000 extra income for tenants to mitigate some of the worst aspects of welfare reform, including what has become known as the bedroom tax.
Mid Wales Housing are always looking for new ways to support tenants, especially with the changes in welfare reform. One way in which the association have done that is the employment of 2 part-time welfare benefits advisors, including myself. We're able to help tenants complete applications for housing-related benefits, including DHPs, personal benefits, as well as disability benefits, and we can do that using our IT systems in the home or at the office using our resource centre.
Over the next few years, we'll be looking at how we can reduce costs even more to benefit our tenants. But last year was not all plain sailing. It is important to us to continue to improve our existing properties, whilst also developing new homes for our tenants. Each year, we are proud to build between 50 and 100 new homes for local people. Whilst doing this, we have a target of employing 80% of local labour and contractors. We also provide apprenticeship and learning opportunities.
Hi, I've been in apprenticeship now for 8 months. I have had the best opportunity from Mid Wales Housing to further myself in the career that I want and to fulfil my dream goals of becoming a carpenter.
Our achievements have been complemented by Assembly ministers who visited to see for themselves what Mid Wales Housing is doing. We've managed to keep pace with improvements to existing homes, meeting Welsh housing quality standards and enabling tenants to live more fulfilling lives.
The way Mid Wales have allocated my home is because I've got a local connection and my family is from Churchstowe. The way Mid Wales are allocating houses is fairer, because I think if you work in the village and give something back to the village, it's nice then that you can get a house in the village. And I think you get a sense of community doing it this way, as we're all local and know each other. It does benefit me in terms of childcare, as I don't drive and I wouldn't be able to work if I wasn't living in the village. I love living here.
The last year has certainly been filled with challenges, most of which we've met and surpassed. I'm proud of my colleagues' achievements, and I look forward to Mid Wales Housing helping tenants for many more successful years to come.
Well, there you are. That's really the story of Mid Wales over the years, and I think that tells the story more effectively than your usual glossy magazine. Of course, you can visit that video again. I'd encourage you to do so. It's easiest if you want to access the annual report microsite to do so through our ordinary website, and I invite you to do so. And if you have any questions on any aspect of what we've been doing over the years, please email us or let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Now, that item 9 on the agenda, election to the Board of Management. I think this is you, Charles, again, is it?
It is indeed, Chair. Thank you very much indeed. If you excuse me all, I will read out the next parts to make sure that I can get it right. Although, on past experience, reading it out doesn't guarantee that I do get it right. In accordance with its rules, the Association's Board of Management comprises a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 15 members, including co-optees. Under Rule D2, up to a third of the board, subject to a maximum of 4 at any one time, may comprise of tenant board members. The Association has adopted an election for fixed terms for 3 years within its rules. This is Rule D12.1. Therefore, at the end of each 3-year term, each member of the board must stand down, but they may stand for re-election if they wish, subject to a maximum term on the board of 3 terms of 3 years, a total of 9 years. In terms of tenant board members, this year no tenant board member will have served a term of 3 years, and therefore no tenant board member stands down from tenant board membership at this AGM. The Association does have 1 tenant board member vacancy. However, no tenant has put themselves forward as a candidate to this year's AGM, and the position will remain vacant. With regard to the independent shareholding board members, this year Mr. Nick Hoskins and Mr. Richard Martin, as independent shareholder members, must stand down as they've reached the end of their second term of 3 years. And Mr. Peter Swanson, as independent shareholder member, must stand down as he has reached the end of his first term of 3 years. All three have expressed an interest in standing for a further term on the board. In addition, there is one other nomination from a shareholder to become a member of the board, Dr. Olivia Morris. She has previously been co-opted to the Board of Management, and the board are supporting this candidate, putting themselves forward to shareholders for consideration as member of the board at today's AGM. All candidates standing for election to the board, including those seeking re-election, have provided a written statement to the association outlining their occupation and suitability to be a board member as required under Rule D16.1. I can also confirm that Dr. Olivia Morris has been nominated by another shareholder as required under Rule 16.2. Shareholders were informed of 4 vacancies for independent shareholding members and has 4 candidates. Therefore, the number of candidates does not exceed the number of vacancies on the board, and therefore under Rule D13.1, all 4 candidates are duly elected. My congratulations to your election. Just wanted to carry on one moment. The Board of Management received last week notice of resignation from an independent shareholder member. This is Susan Trevor. However, this notice did not give sufficient time to inform shareholders of that vacancy, and therefore that vacancy remains. So therefore, there are 2 vacancies on the Board of Management after this AGM. 1 tenant board member and 1 independent shareholding member. The Board of Management can co-opt to these vacancies until the next AGM. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Charles. Before we kick off into any other business, can I personally thank Mrs. Susan Trevor for her last 11 years of loyal service to Midwales Housing Association, and wish you and Trevor all the best for the future. I now hand over to the Chief Executive. He's going into gardening mode, so it's not my cup of tea, so make a hasty tea. Quite right, too. Quite right, too. Somebody agrees with that.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Chair. I asked for some photos to be put up on this because obviously we're recognising some hard work of our tenants in entering the gardening competition. And whilst I'm pleased to be able to stand up here and give some awards for this, I think it would be remiss of me not to show you just how fantastic the hard work of those individuals would be. I'm particularly grateful to Jan Rogers, one of our tenants, who helped Nia with the judging. Jan is a well-experienced gardener, as I well know, and I thought she was perfectly qualified to judge, far more qualified than I am if you've seen my garden, to judge these awards. Not everybody can be here today, but Jan, do you want to come up so we can give the awards to those that are here today? We run a competition with 5 categories. These were best kept communal garden, best kept garden, front, back or both, best hanging basket, best vegetable plot or bed, and best young gardener. As I said, I didn't do the judging. Jan principally did that, so again, thank you for that. Unfortunately, we didn't receive a single entry for best young gardener. So, you know, if you want to put your kids forward next time, then there you go. Opportunity. And when you went round to look at best communal garden, I'm told you found it impossible to judge who was going to win that. So we have a joint winner for that. So if I go on to first one, which is winner of best kept communal garden, and as I said, there were joint winners, neither of who could be here today, but they were Brian Owen from Clark's Court, Welshpool, and Pamela Barnwell, Gwen Jones, and Gareth from William Ames Court in Welshpool. And as you can see, I'm not sure which ones they are actually, as we go around. The next one is the winner of the best hanging basket, which I'm pleased to say is Mr. David Jones from Closivell in Abermuir. And I believe you're here, been patiently waiting for this, haven't you? Through all the dull bit. So if you'd care to come up, I can give you a certificate, and Mira has taken some new copies of the photograph. Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. I should also thank you, Mr. Jones, who's also kindly supplies my staff with cakes from time to time. But I'm assured that the judges didn't know about that. The winner of the best kept garden was Harold Locke and Miss Allen from Hatfield Meadows in Knighton, and sadly they're not able to join us today either. And then the winner of the best vegetable plot or bed, and this is a bit of a stretch to say bed, was Mr. Shane and Mrs. Helen Pugh from Brodulis, Llanidloes. What they've actually done, and I think this is a brilliant example of what you can do nowadays, is they've actually rented a field from the adjoining farmer at Brodulis and have established a huge vegetable plot and chicken pens on there. So I think that shows great initiative in this day and age, and I applaud you for that. So well done. I believe you're here. And the fact that you've got the same name as me didn't influence anything you said. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a good thing. Thank you.
Right, we're still on any other business. Is there any other business anybody wants to raise? About my cardi, go on. All quiet, which I like. Right, it's finished for me to thank you all for coming this evening. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd am ddod heno, a welwn i chi mewn rhyw flwyddyn gobeithio. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi, thank you very much.
And there is more food left, I believe, if you want to help yourself.